Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome back to our London system series. So in this series we're following this very nice opening from white perspective, and today we're continuing with the London system against this Queen's Indian, Bogo Indian, this Queen's Gambit decline setup. So basically when black is playing natural setups, I think these lines are very popular recently in top grandmaster level. For instance, when black plays knight to f6, e6 followed maybe with d5, or knight to f6, e6, maybe something like b6, but with the continuation bishop to d6. So today we're continuing the game with the move bishop to d6 when our bishop on f4 gets challenged immediately by the dark square bishop of blacks. I think you should be really familiar with these lines because they're black will try these lines very often. I've seen recently also Hikaru Nakamura play that. We have also seen Jordan van Forest played this line against Anish Giri in the Armageddon of this recent Tata Steel Masters tournament. So I think you should be familiar with really one line. Then of course we'll study some more opening lines, but today its most important thing is the reaction after the potential bishop to d6. So let's check out now what's all about and how you should meet this idea. So we're playing here d4. Our opponent plays d5. We're playing here bishop to f4, e6, knight to f3. So this is the setup, and now basically we're battling against this particular move by black, bishop to d6. And I think many of us would retreat, maybe bishop to g3, bishop to g5 is a possibility. Here my recommendation is to play the move e3. E3 is very important because if bishop to f4 happens, like black will play many times, after e takes f4, we have now a very nice central control of the square e5. And this line, although it seems to you have weakened the pawn structure, you have maybe a double pawn structure on the f-file, the most important thing is to realize that basically we have still opportunities to play the move rook to e1, for instance, in a couple of more moves, and then we're controlling the e5 square even further. The problem for black here in this particular scenario is that black can never play f6 e5 in order to break the position on dark squares, because we will have really this very nice central control. Queen to d6 can also be met sometimes, not immediately, with moves as g3. And the cool part about this pawn structure is after potential knight to f6 and maybe knight to e4, okay, black could maybe try also an outpost on e4. This outpost can be met with knight to e5, and then we can still kick away the knight with the move f3. So what black can also do in this particular scenario is to break the position on around the square c5. So these are the main lines, c5 and queen to d6. So today we're analyzing both of them, queen to d6 and this move c5 are very important, because that's, I think, the only way that black can battle this position, that black can counterplay our central control around the square e5. So I hope you realize what I'm trying to say, and as I always like to say, please watch my series from the beginning, from the introduction video, part 1, part 2, part 3, and so on, in order to get a better understanding. What we can notice now in this particular position is that we have a much better light square bishop, although of course, as I said, our main issue here is the double pawn structure. It's of course a weakness, but it's not such a huge weakness. I think our activity of the pieces gives us pleasant play in the continuation. Our light square bishop is much better. Bishop to d3 could happen. You see this bishop is controlling here both of these diagonals. After potential knight to e5 here, then the queen could come into the game, and we could also attack the h7 square. So these are really beautiful ideas, beautiful activities for all of our pieces on the board. So as I said, the only way black can counterplay this position is queen to d6 or an early c5. So let's see now this move queen to d6. So here queen to d2, very important. So you don't want to play now g3 immediately, because queen to b4 could happen with the check and you lose your b2 pawn. So we're protecting our dark squares. Now in this scenario, it's very important to protect your dark squares. This is the most important thing, because black will attack now your dark squares. Black will try to undermine the pressure in the center. So knight to e7, we have knight to a3. The first instructive game that we're showing here today, it's a game played by Eric Pry against Michael Sauce. Here knight to a3, very important move, it blocks, I think, a little bit further this potential move c5 by black, because knight to b5 could happen. Then black has to has some trouble again. So as I said, our main goal here is to build a fortress c3, building really compact setups on all of our dark squares. If we protect our dark squares, then this light square bishop will be very, very dangerous, and I think we would have a beautiful, beautiful game from that point on. So here castling was played by black. Here we have c3 first, fixing all of our pawns. We have knight to d7, knight to b5, attacking the queen, queen to b6, and now a4, because after c6 we still have this very cool move a5. Of course the knight is protected by the bishop, so black is not going to, of course, take out the knight with the queen and giving up the queen for 2 minor pieces. Now after move queen to d8, we have knight to d6. Here I think this was a really, really instructive game. It's in a grandmaster level. Here after move knight to f6, knight to c8, we have knight takes c8, and now bishop to d3. And that's what I meant. This outpost on e4 still can maybe be played, but we will simply remaneuver the queen, queen to e2, then we play knight to e5, and still we have opportunities to kick away this potential outpost with move f3. First we should, of course, castle, and then maybe f3, and then play something like rook to e1. Let's see possible continuation, maybe knight to e4, castling, I don't know, maybe knight to d6, then we can play knight to e5, and here in a couple moves we can play f3, rook to e1, and still we would have a powerful control on the e file. I've recently analyzed one game by Anish Giri, and also one game by Alreza Firouzja. I think these 2 games were very instructive, and I added them on my London System series here on the whole playlist. So they are similar, not the same, but with similar strategical ideas, and I think they're very, very instructive, so you can use them also, because recently Alreza played, I think, outstanding games in the London System. So here let's see the continuation of the game. Bishop to d3 was played, knight to d6, castling, queen to c7, attack. Again, sort of an attack against this f4, but as I said, still we can play g3 and follow with the f3. The main goal when we're playing, it's basically now a middle game, bishop versus knight. When we have a bishop versus knight middle game, then there are several rules how to play this middle game. The one of the basic rule is to restrict the knight's ability to play by putting your pawns on that square where your opponent could maybe attack them. So we're trying maybe here also b3, because you see black could try an outpost on c4, and we are trying f3 because black would search maybe for some knight to e4 idea. So it's a restriction goal here. We're playing simply against this knight, and we should also chase the knights. We should kick away, creating spaces, never allow this knight to come into the game. I've explained this bishop versus knight middle games in my basics in chess series. If you have followed maybe my basics in chess series, you can also check them out. Now we have, as I said, basically a bishop versus knight middle game. So here g3 immediately. Here we have c5. As I said, black will continue to attack the dark squares. We have d takes c5, queen to d5, but now queen to c5, now knight to d4, simply keeping the position compact on dark squares. We have b6, a takes b6, a takes b6, queen to e2. As I said, knight to e4 can be still met with f3 ideas, so this knight would be out of game. So g6, we have rook to e1. Again, the main goal, as I said, the control of the e5 square. Queen to c7, king to g2, simply improving the position of the king. Knight from f to e4, and now h4. Here Eric Pry tries really a great flank attack, because this knight, although they're having very powerful central control, I think still they're a little bit dislocated, because a potential knight to c4, you see, can be met with bishop to c4, queen to c4. Here we can take. If black, for instance, takes, then we can take out first a rook, because we don't want the tension, but now maybe rook to e4 could happen. So black can maybe play this tactic differently, but as I said, there is always this threat to take out the knight here on e4. So here knight to c5 was played. We have h5, knight to d3, queen to d3, queen to e7, and now h takes g6. We have h takes g6, and now a very nice tactical shot, rook to e6 by Eric Pry here. F takes e6, queen to g6, here queen to g7, queen takes e6, knight to f7, and now here knight to f5, rook from rook takes a1, but now we can take out the queen, so it's a bad game here for black. So here after move king to g7, we have f5. Although black has here 2 rooks and a knight for the queen, but these 3 pawns are very dangerous. The evaluation is +1 here for white, so Eric Pry played here a very dangerous attack. But as I said, it's in this video, it's not about that I'm showing you here the common tactics or tactical shots of the London system. I think the strategies, how to play, for instance, the bishop versus knight middle game, how to restrict your opponent's knight's ability to play, how you should defend the star squares after your opponent is attacking the dark squares after this bishop to d6 idea. So the ideas, the strategical ideas, I think they're more important than just some tactics. I think you should study your tactics at home. You have several puzzles that you can study really every day. Here after move f5, we have rook to d8. It was a mistake because queen to g6 happened in this position. Black resigned. So let's see possible scenarios. If you try king to f8 here, then we can play simply f6 and threatening here to move queen to g7. But as I said, it's not the point about this game. I think Eric Pry played here an outstanding game. It was a beautiful setup against this early bishop to d6. So let's see another example. Again, this early bishop to d6, we have this accelerated London with knight to f3. Again, black takes out, bishop takes f4, e takes f4, and now black is trying the attack on dark squares. Again, we should protect our dark squares, but this early c5, I think you can met with d takes c5. Okay, black will get the pawn back, that's not the point, but still we can control both of these squares. Now the most important thing is to control the e5 square and also the d4 square. This is the most important thing. As I said, again, f6 with preparations to play e5 would be very dangerous for black, because first of all, this f6 weakens the light squares, so our bishop is very dangerous, and still we can always, I think, block this potential e5 move with castling, and then rook to e1, having a powerful control of that square. So knight to f6 castling, we have knight to d2, you see queen to e2. Here it's a game played by David Hohua against Malkaz Sulashvili. So after the move queen to e2, we have finished our development. I've talked about this development many times. There are 3 stages of the opening. First, we should develop all of our minor pieces. So you see all of the minor pieces are developed. We should castle, so secure the king by castling. It's also done here by white, and also maneuver the queen from the first rank, having the rook connection. So the 3 stages are finished now by white. White has a very pleasant setup, although the evaluation is equal, but I think we can agree this is playable for white. White still has a powerful control of the e5, and with ideas like knight to b3, knight to d4, we could also have a nice grip on around the square d4. So it's, as I said, all about dark square protection now. I think you can agree with that. It's a very important strategy now, protect your dark squares and getting a huge activity with our light square bishop. So a5, knight to d4. Here black tried this trade of bishops, which he managed to do, but still this knight on a6 is a little bit far away now from the action. That's why here f5 was played by white. White really breaks now the position in the center. We have e takes f5, knight to f5. You see the knights are more and more active by white, and we can also notice that black has here an isolated pawn situation. The isolated pawn situation I've talked about also in my basics in chess series, how to play against this isolated pawn situation. One of the best ways is, of course, to create a blockade around the square d4. That's the square that we're protecting. That's the square where we should really build our attack. So here a6, a4 was played, rook from f to e1. We have queen to c7, queen to e3, g6, and now queen to d4. A better idea is even, I think, here queen to h6, because after potential f takes g takes f5, we would have queen to g5. We could also take out the knight, and afterwards rook to e3, rook to h3 would be a possibility. The king is simply that here. So let's go back here. Queen to d4 was played, which was a slight inaccuracy by white. As I said, queen to h6 more accurate, but still it's a 3.0 evaluation here for white. White is much better. You see the knight is hanging here, queen to d8, the queen gets very passive, and now knight to e7, cutting off the connection between the knight and the queen. King to g7, and now g4, very nice move. We have h6, now f4 with the preparation of course to play the move g5. We have queen to d7, now g5. Anyway, we have a check, not a problem. Still we have a good protection after the move. H6, g5, knight to d5 was played, very nice move. Rook to d8, queen takes f6 here, king to h7. Now here very cool move again by white, queen takes d8, getting this rook after queen. If you take of course rook to d8, knight to f6 will happen, you get the fork. Queen to f5 was played, now queen to g5, and in this after knight to b8 in this position black resigned. But that's that. Don't just study these games by heart. It's not about these games. First, understand please the strategies. Let's go back after the potential bishop to d6 move. Here my recommendation is simply to go with e3. Let your opponent take out the bishop. It's perfectly fine. You will not lose the game because your opponent has doubled up your pawn structure on the f-file, but now you should be really familiar with the common strategies. Protect your dark squares, c3 ideas, bishop to d3, queen to e2, maybe knight to a3, followed with knight to c2 is also possibility to protect your d4. Maybe something like knight to d2, knight to b3, knight to e5. So it's all about central protection of this dark squares, and then from that point on, I think with the activity of the light square bishop, you will have a pleasant game. So okay, I hope that you realize these ideas, and I hope that you enjoy this video. If you want to study more this London system, please check out my whole playlist from the beginning, from the introduction video, part 1, part 3, part 2, part 3, and so on. If you have trouble maybe to play as black yourself against maybe d4 or e4, you can also check out my King's Indian, Nimzo Indian, and my Hyper Accelerated Dragon Sicilian Defense series, in which I showed you, I think, good opening lines against d4 and e4 from black perspective, of course. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.